Hi, you're here sewing with Cody, and in today's video we are on the bernette B77, and we're going to be talking about the security program. So with the security program, we can essentially tell it what type of needle we're working with, mainly if we're dealing with like twin needles and wing needles, needles that have some some security restrictions. And also when we're working with different stitch plates, it will notify us exactly what stitch plate we're working with. So the bernette B77 and the bernette B79 come with two different stitch plates. So we have a straight stitch plate, which is one with a single hole, and this is excellent for piecing. It's excellent for straight stitching, so you get a beautiful straight stitch. Or if you're working with more delicate fabrics, there's no room for any fabric to get pushed down because you just have a single hole. But then again, you can only use a straight stitch, but the machine knows that. And then here we have the standard 7mm stitch plate. So here we've got a nice big 7mm opening, which allows us to use all of our decorative stitches to their full capacity and be able to move any of the stitches left or right using our needle position buttons. So to go to our security program icon, it's right here. So right now we see a 7mm and a picture of the stitch plate. So that basically knows the machine knows that we have this 7mm stitch plate on. If we take this stitch plate off and put on the 0mm stitch plate, it's going to automatically change and tell us that we cannot move our needle positions and we can only use a straight stitch. So on a B79, you're going to want to use a single hole stitch plate when you are embroidering, but the B77 only sews. So if we come here and click, we can see the two different stitch plate options, but also we can see a couple of different twin needles and their sizes and a wing needle. So if we are using, say, a 2.5 twin needle, we would come here and tell the machine. We'll see it display here. So if we exit out, you'll see the two different stitches. So if we select the zigzag, you'll see the double stitching. So right away you're going to know that you have the twin needle selected. And the sole purpose of telling the machine that you're using a twin needle and what size is because now we have our needles that are spaced apart from the main shank. So we can't make a zigzag as big as we could with a single needle, because what would happen, it would hit the side of the foot, it would hit the side of the stitch plate if we didn't tell it. So by telling it, it puts a restriction on the size that we can make it. So it stops this particular zigzag at a 4mm. Otherwise, a regular straight stitch, you would be able to change it to 7mm with a regular single needle. So this is one of the things you would change, and the purpose for the security program, which we can access here and here, is you can tell it what needle you're working with. So you could tell it on a Bernina that you're using a 0mm or 5.5mm or other different stitch plates, because the Bernina machines don't recognize what stitch plate you put on it. But with a bernette B77, B79, I'll show you. We are going to take off the stitch plate, so it does require a screwdriver. So if we take this stitch plate off, and then we take the straight stitch plate, we're going to have a whole bunch of things go on. So as soon as we put this on, we get this message. So this message is telling us that we cannot move our needle position. So if we remember, we told the machine we were working with twin needles. So you can see right away the twin needles turn red. Down here where our stitch plate is, we get a little caution sign, a little exclamation point, and same thing with our twin needles. We're getting all of this because we have twin needles selected. We told the machine we were using twin needles, but we're not using twin needles. It was just for demonstration purposes. So if we go back and say, okay, I'm only using a single needle, then both of those caution signs or those exclamation points go away. So now it's safe. So also, if you notice, we have a zigzag selected, but it's only showing us a straight stitch. That's because we have that 0mm stitch plate on, no matter what we select, it's only going to allow us to stitch a straight stitch, which is wonderful. So we can never accidentally break a needle when we're using the 0mm stitch plate because the machine knows we have that stitch plate on it. So those are the different ways to access the security function and what you can change and why you'd want to change it. All right, well, hopefully that helps and answers any of your questions. Okay, Happy sewing!